This week on Hermitcraft.
A major waste spill has been discovered at a Concorp retailer in the shopping district. Let's go over to Grian, who is out in the field. Thank you, Grian.
Hey Zloy, have you seen our bread and butter? 'Cause I'm pretty sure I know who has it. Welcome to the Hermitcraft recap. My name is PixelRiffs, our writer is ZloyXP, and for the first time in forever, we don't have to spoiler alert anything in this recap video. Wait, what? Sherlock Grian has finally figured out a way to pin the crimes on a Jangler who turned out to be old man good times.
And I could have got away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids and dog. We're out of here. Oh, no.
We'll save the whole reveal and festivities for later, as they have a lot to do with 4 members of the server at once. For now, let's take a look at all the events and mishaps that occurred on the Hermitcraft server this week and weren't covered by a news crew consisting of 5 of the same person.
Also, here's my bum.
Starting with Zedaph and his struggle to link up nether portals reliably. Remember how you just need to divide the coordinates by 8? Yeah, not so much in this case.
Is the perfect location there, the coordinate up on the screen. That's where it wants it to be. The nearest portal it can find to those coordinates is the one it will travel to. So, using a super duper clever Euclidean distance equation, this mammoth, we can plug in and find out the score of how far away each one of these is.
Having convinced the game that his portal is closer than Stress is, Zed starts experimenting with an even more scientific matter, the falling out of bed mechanic that Minecraft has for some reason. The task, as with the auto-closing sarcophagus, is to create a decorative visual during sleepy time, and at the Glacier base, what better visual to create than pretending you've been cryogenically frozen for when humanity creates a cure for being Zedaph. Azuma's nether adventures are more on the artistic side, what with him putting banners on most of the main nether portals in the map hub area. Though Zedaph would no doubt appreciate his other projects too, the Concorp Studios puzzle rooms, to be completed by hermits and televised for our enjoyment. As far as Azuma's plans go, it seems to be a wild mix between Is That Sheep Looking At Me and The Tangler. Too bad Evil X is banned, he might be into this kind of torture. For a less violent public broadcast, Azuma uses his 100th episode of this season as an opportunity to showcase the lesser-known builds of the server, one of them being so lesser-known that he himself doesn't quite recognise the author.
Now, I'm wondering if this is Mumbo's project, because Mumbo loves to build with stone bricks, and I know he was building a smelter for Sahara recently.
It's Wells Night, by the way. Sign your stuff, people. Then, having fixed his personal witch farm and cranked up the drops from it to 1100, Azuma returns to the Tower Bay of Towers and puts down a park with custom trees and a water feature in the hope of breaking up the industrial nightmare that area has become. Thankfully, Python is there to help out right across the river. Though the Hermitcraft railway network line doesn't exactly say pristine, the white material it's made of helps with the lighter feeling, and Python helps by allowing it through 2 of the skyscrapers he's been building. With the foundations laid and some new accent colours picked out, diverting this branch of the rail line directly through them isn't such an inconvenience. It's certainly less conspicuous than the giant cookie in the sky that nobody's been bothered to eat yet.
I mean, to be honest with you, I'm kind of alright with this. I like this. I like having a cookie floating in the sky.
Taking it all in his stride, Python manages to build up an orange accented building around it. The rail line, I mean, not the cookie. Joe Hills abandons accents altogether, by which we mean he doesn't do any of his famous impressions in this week's episodes, but he does spend a lot of time with the colour orange, mining up a chunk of the mesa so he can contribute to the southbound tunnel of the Nether Hub. Although after it becomes clear that he brought a little too much orange to the party, he re-dyes a bit for the light blue tunnel as well. While he's there, he does a bit of exploring, and stepping down a tunnel that he liked the look of, he finds himself unknowingly transported to False Symmetry's giant Enderman statue directing travellers to the end portal.
This is a good tunnel, you guys. Where does this go? I just want to eat a carrot and admire it.
Said tunnel was only recently assembled by False as part of that whole making the portal room be a part of the server's infrastructure thing. And while nether travellers may recognise it by the endstone covered in dead coral, Elytra flyers will spot it by an unusually large Enderman, who is now holding an end portal frame thanks to the infinite wisdom of False's livestream audience. On a bit of a roll with long-forgotten things, False brings back the idea that the medieval district can be built in, and uses mushroom blocks for it, no less, which, by the way, go great with spruce planks. Though having mushroom walls and a clay roof, her medieval build doesn't break the immersion of the area, and that too is pretty great. TFC also doesn't want to break the immersion of the area directly above his base, by which we mean the Sahara plot. Despite it being in the way of his usual path to the shopping district, he's tasked himself with finding a creative way around, so he's been digging a tunnel underneath it, installing a piston trapdoor in the floor of the Minetasm shop, and linking the whole thing to his branch mine, so he can pop up in the shopping district wherever he likes. He even ends up taking back some of his own stock so he can decorate the tunnel the same as the rest of his base. Doc M is done decorating his own tunnel, the now familiar piston bolt track in the Nether, and it's time to finally install all the tracks and mob-proof the area. He even considers using turtle eggs to lure the pigmen off the railway lines, since it'd just take one mischievous pig soldier to severely delay someone's journey. The mischief all happens at Doc's hands this week, as he decides to finally make good on all the dirty deeds he picked up at the store of the same name. Turnabout is fair play though, and he makes sure a fair few of them happen on Concorp land, planting a 7x7 smiley face, a chair, a few ladders, a painting, and a handful of signs saying LOL. It's probably not as painful as the time he shot his skull in the butt though. This prompts Cub to remind the general audiences that the dirty deeds were never meant to be done only on the Concorp territory, since between Doc and False that seems to be the general consensus.
You can put it in other people's bases if you want to, if any of the other hermits are out there listening. I think most of them have been in my base so far, but yeah.
The not quite clean shenanigans Cub gets up to himself this week include horses of the skeletal variety being stored in a conduited and conditioned stable in the middle of a random lake the Concorp land had sitting around. Since skelly horses make for a great submarine, there's no problem keeping them down there, and there's no chance of them getting out either. Overall, a fair substitute for a lack of actual seahorse in the game. While we're on the subject of skeletons, Rendog is working on the lore for his giant X-Dragon in the Fantasy District, and decides to conceal the entrance to his ravine base inside a stone brick altar, which he then tries to dive directly into from 50 blocks up. Do not play Minecraft the way Rendog plays Minecraft. Unless you want to build a shulkerbox cleaning machine, because that's what he builds just inside the entrance. A contraption where he can line up his collection of multicolored suitcases to be emptied of their contents, then push them all off the hopper line when he's done. He also sets up a way to throw items into the dragon's mouth, which was the intention all along, but 1.13 water mechanics turned out to be a little confusing. Almost as confusing as how one misspells I with A despite those letters being across the whole keyboard.
Yeah, I mean, I could say it was a plan and feel good about myself, but I'd be lying. I'd be lying.
Yes, now that we've covered both of the Watsons available on the whitelist, it's time to dive right into the mysterious case of the reappearing diamonds. Just give Sherlock a moment to play the reporter here. As pointed out in Grian's video descriptions, it's not that no one knew Scar was the Jangler, it's that there wasn't enough evidence to pin the crimes on him.
And I'm not going to put it by you guys, because I know that you're just going to go straight for him, and it might be wrong.
And while the detailed cookie of the original prank and the utter refusal to be a baddie gifted the investigation 99% certainty in their suspicions, the 1% wouldn't let them unleash the dogsons onto the only suspect. This final nail in the coffin didn't make them wait long, as, having intentionally built a pretty half-baked interpretation of a cookie, the sleuths found it tweaked and fixed to better fit the landscape. It turns out all the crimes against the lawn were intentional, and there was only one person on the server who would notice and fix them. And that person did not hesitate to confess when confronted.
Are you the Jangler, Scar?
Yes.
Yeah.
Naturally, the stock exchange duo are happy to have tracked down the person who unvanished their diamonds, but they want to keep as much of that in their pockets as possible, so they attempt to pay for Sherlock Grian's services with counterfeit stones. But the diamonds are easily spotted, and eventually they cough up the full fee in legitimate currency, throwing in a pet pufferfish for good measure. But with this case closed and buried, a new one rises over the horizon as the hermits find the shopping district spammed with sea pickles and the giant mask of the Salmon ghost appears over Harry Pickler's face. Will Sherlock Grian take the challenge, or is he too busy slagging off Concorp on his private TV network? Only time will tell. As for the Jangler himself, this doesn't cover the things Good Times with Scar accomplished this past week in the slightest. Full up on terraforming juice, Scar raises spire after spire, pushing the pirate land slowly into the shape he wants it. More so, in a moment of passion, he blows up the Black Sands island that houses his nether portal, only so he can rebuild it into a larger, more intimidating structure, pretty much impossible to navigate without an elytra. That's right, the madman blows up a thing he already terraformed just so he can terraform it again, timing all of the lapses in the process. Upscaling is also on Iskal's to-do list, as he expands his ocean floor slime farm all the way down to bedrock to make it even more radically productive than it was before. The plan, of course, is to add slime blocks to the list of things Sahara can sell, because now he and Mumbo have finished all the storage modules, they need to actually store something. Funneling all that slime to the surface is the easy part, the hard part is containing it all. Iskal decides to wrap the output pipes in, you guessed it, green glass, adds a cuboid container around the 2 shulker box loaders, and before you know it, he's got a giant robot. If only we hadn't used all our Transformers jokes last week.
What we need is a big mustache, but I'm not gonna do that.
But he's not the only one working with the Autobots, because Mumbo's week is spent putting the finishing touches on his overproductive pumpkin and melon farm. Armed with hose, seeds, slabs, and slime blocks, he builds 2 halves of the world's longest chessboard and crosses his fingers that nothing decides to move diagonally. Luckily for the Redstone Grandmaster, it all seems to work just fine, so he casually installs a storage system that can hold up to 600,000 pumpkins, AFKs for an hour, and is almost blown up by a creeper immediately afterwards. All in the name of progress.
And let's take a look at what sort of resources we got. Now oh no!
After all that time working on the farm, it's no wonder he decides a simpler farming life might be for him, and adopts a chicken from the Treat Your Chick ranch, although he's not quite sure what to do with it yet. And finally there's Jevin and the fidget spinner he now calls home. Quite sick of all sorts of undead inviting themselves for dinner, he lights up the build with sea lanterns underneath black glass. The storage room work goes on, now with a new layer covering the chests and looking out into the sea, which it's incredibly convenient to admire the floor pattern from. Said floor pattern is a quality combination of black concrete, the smooth side of a quartz stair, and black glazed terracotta, which, combined together, looks somewhat similar to a carpet I've seen on Zloy's wall once. And that's just about it for this week's recap. Our writer is ZloyXP, and my name is Pixel Riffs. Do you want to see Zloy stab some ghosts? Of course you do. Well, you're in luck. His latest episode of The Twilight Forest is in the end cards. Don't forget to leave a like while you're still here and subscribe so you won't miss future recaps. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.